Hey, I'm Sawyer,
I'm Andres.
and this is our project for the Moog Hackathon 2021. We call it the Boom Moog. Basically what we did is we've attached piezo sensors to each of the drums, just like you would find on an acoustic guitar pickup. And what these are doing is they're feeding signals. They're all routing back to this breadboard, and this breadboard is feeding into these Arduinos. And the Arduinos are using the signals from these sensors to do trigger detection on each of these drums, so we can sense when each drum is hit. So we can tell when this one's been hit, each independently, and they won't interfere with each other.
So Arduinos have digital outputs, not analog ones, so we can't just input control voltages just easy peasy. So we had to add some low pass filters on the pulse width digital outputs to control voltages for our work stats. As you can see on both breadboards, there's a bunch of low passes. Some of our inputs were just gates, so those are just triggered with the digital pin from Arduino. We also created a random noise generator that we would input into the VCF of both work stats to help with specific sounds, specifically the snare and the hi-hats and the ride. Some of the parameters we wanted to control, like resonance or pulse width, on the work stats didn't have control voltages inputs. So we soldered over the board to just have the ability to control those from the Arduino as any other parameter. To interface the work stats with the Arduinos, we had to write a variety of different functions for our program. To begin with, we did some initialization for a variety of different things. As any Arduino program, it's operating out of one big loop, and it has a few functions that handle the logic of this program. So we use a detect trigger function to control the piezo's inputs. So values read from the analog pins from the piezos were compared to thresholds that we tuned for each drum to get good trigger detection. We also stored this information if we wanted to save it for a loop with a timestamp of when it happened. Additionally, we had software to detect if you were starting a loop or starting a recording, which let that looper pedal function. And then we also had a way to play back a loop that we had saved. And this would just emulate the triggers happening in real time for that duration of the recording. And then finally, we wrote an envelope that would trigger the Moog to play the different sounds. So it was configurable for each Moog. And we had two of these programs, one for each work stats. So one handled the toms and one handled the hi-hat and ride cymbal.
So if I press this pedal down here, I can start or stop a loop. So I'll start it with just a simple hi-hat pattern. So it'll keep playing that pattern. And I can play over any pattern that I've recorded already.